Hey everybody, welcome to Gimme A Song. I'm your host, Jeff Phipps. I asked my friends to come on and give me a song. Today my guest is...
Mollie Amburgey. Hey.
Hello, Mollie.
And now, a word from today's sponsors.
When I go to vape, I choose Zippy brand vape sticks. The vape sticks made with love. With 24 and a half different flavors such as honey, caramel, and steak, Zippy is the best. You know we're the best because you have to order them from Pirate Bay, your dark web source. FDA, never heard of it. But we have heard of candy corn, our latest flavor. Look, it's a vape. You've already made that decision. Now get out there and get the best flavors and all the microplastics you could ever ask for. Zippy brand vape sticks, made with love, made for you.
Wow.
Yeah. Are you a big vapor?
So I am not, but I did not know that steak could be an option.
Well, you can't buy the flavored ones anymore.
You can't?
I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I have no, because I don't vape, so I have no idea.
I don't either. I have friends. I have family that vapes, so I don't
There
know.
you go.
But I know if you just go to the store, if you go to like the convenience store to get vapes, like
There we go.
no-
So we just got to ask either our friends and family that we know that vape, or we have
Yes.
to go ask the random guy at the convenience store.
Yeah.
And we have some options here.
We could go to Zippy's website too.
Or
and look into it.
Zippy's, yeah. We could
absolutely.
Go,
So, what do you do? Tell me, what do you do, Mollie?
Sure. Well, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're
and then,
quite
yeah.
welcome.
So before we even get into me, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I really like margaritas, and I wanted to give a shout out to them. The
Yeah.
staff here is really nice. They're really awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they let me record here, so
and they-
I'm forever in debt. And they let me run a show here.
Exactly.
So, they've gone above and beyond. And they get, we're here frequently. So.
Oh, of course. Yeah, so they get business. No,
They do
the
get-
last show I did here, your show was really fun. We had
Yeah,
a really
thank
good turnout.
Yeah.
And then I remember after I did my set, I ordered some food and just ate with some audience members. They were
Yeah.
like, come join our table. And so it was really cute. So I just wanted to share that real quick, that they're really cool here.
Yeah.
So I do comedy,
Yes.
which is how I met you, Jeff. And then Jeff has been very gracious, like I said, to have me on his showcase. And then we did the, was it a fundraiser for
Central VPA?
Yes, and
Yeah.
that was cool because that was over at the Dot Zac, right in the
Yeah.
city, and that was kind of full circle for me because I was a theater major. I went to SLU, St. Louis University, and I used to live in the artist lofts in Midtown, so I would go over to the Dot Zac a lot. When
Yeah.
I first started my podcast, I would record in the Dot Zac, and so I was like, I should do a show in here someday. And so then, I was like, oh, now I have the opportunity to do it, which is cool. And
It worked out. That was a great show.
That was a really fun
That really
show.
worked out. We raised over. So there was a school shooting just to get people up to speed.
to get people. Yeah, sorry. I'm
So-
just like, it was
no, you're-
great. Yeah.
No, but so I taught at
Yeah.
Central VPA for years. So I taught theater majors,
Yeah.
theater
Yeah.
kids. So I'm well aware of that unique brand of fun that theater majors are. And we had a school shooting. One of my friends was killed. One of the students was killed.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah.
And I was like, what can I do to get back? I wasn't teaching anymore.
Sure.
And I was like, hey, I'm doing comedy now. That was the first show I'd ever put on.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
pretty solid. We had a good crowd. Yeah.
It was a good crowd. We had a great lineup. We had Emily Heron, who was on last week.
Yes.
We had Jeremy Hellwig and
Will O'Donnell.
Chad. Will O'Donnell
Yeah.
headlined. And that was one of his first headlining.
Oh, he was great.
He was great. And Chad Wallace was there, and he was
Yes.
great. And Chad
Everybody,
Wallace's daughter went to Central at the time.
Oh,
So,
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So, yeah, it was a small thing.
But yeah, it worked out great, and
it
we
did.
had a good show, and this audience was so solid,
Yeah.
and yeah, they were good.
A lot of friends and family there, so I got away with it. I did
Yeah.
terrible. I think. I don't know.
Well, I feel
I
like
was just
too.
way too upset to try and tell jokes.
Sure. And you're like, it's hard when you're using, and this is nothing against, it's just in general with anything like that, it's hard to be like, hi, here's what happened. But does anybody want to laugh real quick? It's just,
Yeah.
but people were very understanding. We were in an environment where people understood what was going on. We're just trying to, try to make you have a good time while you're there. And it seemed like, from my perspective, it felt like everybody did. So,
I mean, if anybody had any bad feelings towards it, they never told me.
Yeah, it was in secret. Yeah.
Which is funny, and after shows here, I'm like, oh, did you have a good time? I make a point of going to everybody and thanking them. And then there's a store here on Main Street, and they take flyers. So I print flyers. I really do the whole 9 to promote the show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, you could come out. And he's like, we went to your show once. And I was like, oh, well, what'd you think? He's like, we didn't like it. I was like, okay, will you take the flyer though?
Yeah, exactly.
And they did.
You don't have to come, but you can promote it.
I was like, you should have said something. I would have given you your money back.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, hey, I will give you the point on this. So I disagree with that because, and I will tell you this. So I don't do any refunds for the shows that I produce because for the effort, especially for local comedy, people do not realize like how much time it takes to like put those flyers together, put out social media. Like I am consistently like building at least like in my case, I'm building a content calendar. I have a website. I'm trying to like do radio stuff. Like there's a lot of promotion that goes into it.
Yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
Like just even getting the lineup alone, you're like, okay, well, who's available? And it's also like, it's not just like who's even available, like who fits well with who. And so I'm like, I'm sorry, like comedy is subjective, just like theater is subjective. Yeah. So you came, you experienced art. And if it wasn't for you, that's fine. Yeah. But you just go elsewhere. And it's just like too, when I run my open mic every month, I do always say, I'm like, hey, this is an open mic. Right. So if somebody, just like you would say at like the Funny Bone, Helium, wherever, if you don't like what they have to say, just know it was only 4 minutes of your life.
Right. You get what you go to an open mic, you get what you get.
Exactly.
Like that, maybe you don't know that ahead of time. Like, oh, it's comedy and it's an open like if you don't catch the words open mic, you just see the word comedy and you just show up and it's like, no, you're getting people, literally like
just like go have fun. Yeah. It's an experience. And then I tell people it's never a reflection of the venue you're going to because you just never know. You never know. People just say weird things and you're like, whoa, what? And you're
and a lot of like here in St. Louis specifically, we've lost so many venues over time due to
people being
crazy off the wall. Like I'm trying to be edgy. I don't. First off, you can't tell a regular joke, and then you're trying to tell like some kind of offensive joke.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have no sense of structure or anything. It's like your punchline is like F these people.
Yeah,
and whatever genre of people you want to define it as, but it's a terrible joke. You shouldn't be doing it anyway, but you have to do it. Like you are so compelled to go on the stage and do this. God bless you, but like at the same time, like please stop.
Exactly.
Because we're losing we lose so many places.
That's why I'm very protective about every venue I use. So like there was only one time I think somebody, and it wasn't even a comedian, it was a magician. Right. Like the magician, I'm like, you can't trust these magicians, even though one of my dear friends is a magician, and she's like actually like goes to the magic castle and everything. But it's, I remember he spilled like water or like a liquid on the stage and it was just so bad. And I remember I like went into the STL comedians group and I was like,
I remember seeing that post.
Here is this, like, and I never am that type to like go into any group and like start drama. And Clay Beiersdorfer? Yeah. He messaged me, he goes, who effed up?
Yeah. That's the first. Whenever so we have our own. We have our own.
Right. I'm like, oh my god.
There's a group for almost every city.
Yes.
And I'm in a lot of them. I'm sure you're in a lot of them.
Yeah.
And but ours is just kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's a good group. I love the comedians that I know, and I'm good friends with a lot of them and stuff like that, and we're friends and stuff. Yeah. But it's like every once in a while you're just like, okay, here's what you're doing wrong. Please stop.
Yeah.
And then immediately everyone's like, oh, who is that more? Like, we did have an open mic here for a while, and
that's right. Oh I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, that's how I started. Yeah. So I had open mic, and then I ran the show, and so I now run a show here, and I started a podcast. So in terms of comedy, that's what I'm doing.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. And somebody had burned this mic to the ground. And we can talk about it off there.
Literally, when you said before we started recording, Jeff was like, if you turn into the camera, you can like break the fourth wall. And I literally just did that out of the office.
Right. Yeah.
Who?
Yeah. We can talk afterwards. But anyway.
It's in secret.
So I ask everybody the same question, so I'm going to ask you, what do you think your biggest accomplishment has been thus far as a comedian?
My biggest what? I'm sorry.
Accomplishment.
Oh, accomplishment.
Yeah.
I have been very fortunate to be very accepted by the St. Louis community because I'm not originally from St. Louis.
You're a traitor. You're from Cincinnati, the home of the worst chili on the planet.
Oh, we're going to have a discussion about that. No, I actually opened for a guy who was from Cincinnati at Helium, and he and I were having a whole discussion about chili, and he's like, Skyline, like, no, and we because there's a big thing before I even get into the accomplishment real quick.
Yeah.
If you ever go to Cincinnati, there is a big debate between Skyline and Gold Star. And Cincinnati is very pro Skyline chili.
Yes. I've eaten at Skyline.
Yes, they are against Gold Star. So we were having this discussion about like, oh no, like we don't go to Gold Star. Like my husband, Jimmy, like he will make jokes about being like, the next time we go, I'm going to go to Gold Star while you're at Skyline. And I'm like, that is, cause for divorce.
Yeah,
like,
that's,
I don't know,
that's
like,
grounds.
that's around. So it was poor Eric Rustler, who's another local comedian here in the area. He was like, Mollie, I love that I am standing because, in Helium, the green room's a little small. So you're just like all together. So this poor, like tall man has been in between these two people going, you love Skyline? I love Skyline. This is great. And he just goes, I cannot believe it has only been 10 minutes that we have all been in this room together. And I am stuck between two Cincinnati people discussing chili.
Right.
I'm like,
and
oh my God.
It's like one of those, it's like the what high school did you go to kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's that similar, like
what chili do you eat?
I know where you're from kind of conversation.
1,000%. Yes.
But that chili's awful.
Oh my God. Well, I made it for the Super Bowl. I made a chili dip and Jimmy won't have it, but I have it to myself. But when the Bengals were in the Super Bowl, I made like a whole like thing. Like we had cocktails. Everything was like Cincinnati themed. It was like a whole thing. But back to the accomplishment. Sorry, I just had to go on about chili for like 10 minutes.
No, by all means. I mean, if you like it, you like it. I'm not going to argue with you about it. But
no, but you're allowed to have your opinions as well.
Well, thank you.
You know what? In these times, you can have an opinion. It's okay. Before you get shut down. But the accomplishment I have really recently, I had a really beautiful experience. I opened up for Michael Costa over at the City Winery.
Awesome.
And it was like kind of like, one of those days when I got the email where things are just going wrong and you're like, what am I doing with my life? And then all of a sudden I get this sweet email from the booker and she goes, hi, Mollie, like, I just want to let you know, Michael Costa's team reached out to me and they would love for you to open for him.
Wow.
And it was really cool. They were very gracious about including my name on the social media and the flyer, which I was not like, I didn't even ask, like, because I mean, Michael Costa, like I even told him, I was like, you are very accomplished. Like you're like, and he was so kind. He came in and he was like, Mollie, I'm Michael. Like, it's so nice to meet you. And he's like, you're very funny. And it was just very, very kind. And he goes, no matter what happens, like, just do your set. I kind of like talked about what material and, I am a cleaner comedian and that's what I was hired to do. So I was like, let me just keep it a little bit cleaner. And then he went and we had it was just like a really nice interaction with somebody because afterwards at the City Winery, like they said, you can eat your food during the show, you could eat it after. And I was like, I get a little nervous if I could just eat it after. So while we were waiting for like all the paperwork to be done and my check to be completed, we were eating dinner, just like basically in the green room impromptu. And it was kind of cool to be like, one of the things that I had mentioned is I have not been really drinking alcohol. Like I had stopped doing that and I had a mocktail when he first came in and he was like, well, he's like, I love that. Like, this is like the best time to like not drink, everybody's been doing it. So he was very sweet. He goes, what made you want to do that? And I mentioned to him, I said, my dad passed away last year.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh no, thank you. And it was, my dad was an athlete and I had a picture of him in my wallet and I showed him, I was like, I actually found this picture on eBay and I bought it because it was like an old picture of my dad playing football at the University of Cincinnati and he didn't drink. And so what I was like, well, maybe in January I'll do a dry January and see how I feel. And then I've kind of just not been drinking. Like I think I had one shot with JC Sabala my open mic because he's like, let's have a shot. But I don't really miss it at this time in my life. I told him and we ended up talking about like his dad passing and I was like, oh, I want to read your book because he talks about that. And he really made me feel not only in a safe place to discuss comedy, but in a safe space to discuss life. Yeah. And I was like, wow. I remember going, and believe me, I still do. I am not famous. I am not on Netflix or anything, as we well know. But I was like, wow, I can't believe, like, here I was, like, doing open mics and trying stuff. And then I got to meet somebody that I really admire that not only respected me on a professional level, but also on a personal level. And it just, that being able to have a moment like that, I will always cherish that no matter what happens to me in comedy for the rest of my life. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's good when people remember how they got there.
Yeah.
And they don't you know, they don't big time you or anything like that.
Yeah.
I haven't really had a lot of problems with that for people I've met. You know, everybody's been nice and gracious to me so far. So I just couldn't fathom that because I won't take that well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe like you big time. It's like, you know, there's like 10 people maybe on the planet who could big time me. And I don't think like anybody headlining Helium or, you know, St. Charles or, you know, Westport or any of those people are in that category to big time anybody. It's like you're one, you know, 2 or 3 bad shows away from being back where we're at, you know, which is like, you know, running shows and, you know, getting our time in when we can and everything else like that. It's like you're closer to me than I, you know, than you are to maybe like
I don't ever,
Nate or
you know,
something,
I've been very lucky to not have like any headliners like be unkind or any or even feature acts. There was only one time I had somebody, and it's always somebody that's like not as you know, well accomplished,
right.
And that's more of a reflection on them. And I just remember being like, how sad that you are you.
Yeah.
You know, like how sad, like you must be so broken by other things in your life that you feel the need to put down other people. So I was like, and you know, I wasn't the only one that got treated that way either,
right.
But you know,
yeah, usually it's not like, they don't target you specifically. It's
Yeah.
never like, you know, those kind of people, it's like everybody and they're just kind of, you know, jerks.
Yeah.
It's not
exactly.
Cool. It's like,
right.
Like I said, it's like, why are you like this? You know,
Yes.
that kind of thing. It's like, you just want to shake them. I ask people to come on here, give me a song. Before I do ask them if they want to know the foundation of the story.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Why not? We're here. Let's talk about it.
After show one night, Larry Smith and I, you know Larry Smith from Springfield.
Oh, I love Larry Smith. How is he doing?
He's
Oh my God.
He's in Chicago.
What?
Yeah,
oh, so
they
he
relocated.
moved.
He did.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
They moved for his comedy.
He
They
is
could work-
wonderful.
They could work remote, and he moved.
Oh, see, he had me on his podcast, and it's just in the same place when we recorded at the On God. He's lovely. I'm so
he's
happy
awesome.
he's doing well. And
Yeah.
yes.
So he's wearing a Drive-By Trucker shirt. Are you aware of the Drive-By Truckers?
No.
No, that's fine. It's a band, and I had seen them live, and I was
Okay.
like, meh. And that was my response to it. And he's like, oh, no, you don't. He's like practically shaking me. You know, he's like, you don't understand. He's like, this band is awesome. He's like, you got to hear the song. And I was like, okay, sure. And he plays the song, and I was like, oh, well, you got to hear this. And then I, you know, sent him a song like later, but we were talking about it the whole time. And I was like, you know, and then I called him, and I was like, hey, what do you think about this for like a show? And I was like, you know, and then would you be on? And he was like, yeah, of course. And then so he was the second person on. And
I'll have to listen to his episode.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's out
Okay.
there.
Yes.
So
it's out there. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many episodes.
Hear. Yeah.
There's so many episodes.
There's like
now.
so many.
Yeah.
I'm always recording. Yeah.
I'm recording a lot. You're number 25, so
Ooh-wee.
we're almost at half a year.
25 was actually like one of my favorite years being alive. So I'm down for this. Yes.
Yeah, 2025 too.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Done.
So anyway, that was the creation of the story. I was like, I could do this, and then so I started inviting people on, and people have been really good about coming on and stuff like that. You know, and I've had a lot of the people that you mentioned, like JC, Will. Larry.
No, there's so many. I was actually looking through the list. I was like, there's a lot of people I know that are on here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I burned through all of them. So
love it.
Anyway, what was the song you gave me, and who was it by?
Yes, so I gave you "When It All Falls Apart" by the Veronicas, and
Awesome.
yes, it was super random. But when you had mentioned that, I was trying to think, because you know sometimes you overthink about like when somebody asks you to do something. I didn't answer right away because I was like, oh, well, I want to send. But then this song came on. It's like weird when the universe kind of works like that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it sounds so depressing. I'm like, I'm having the worst day ever. Like my dad, you know. But I think I was just overwhelmed. And then I'm in my car, and this song like came on my mix, like from Spotify. And I went, I loved this song when I was in high school. And then it's like one of those things where I'm like a pretty nice person, but I will say that. But I, like anybody, also have like their moments of rage. And so this is kind of a fun like way to still stay Mollie without going too crazy. But
having a day from hell. It was all going so well before you came, and you told me you needed space. With a kiss on the side, my face. Not again, and not to mention the tears I shed. I should have kicked your ass instead. I needed attention.
I just love that the first line is, I'm having a day from hell.
Yeah.
It was all going so well before you came. That's my life, is I'm like, I'm going to have the best day. And then something happens and I'm like, this is the worst day. Like, I'm having the day from hell.
Is that just how your days can go?
Yes.
It's all or nothing?
It really is. Like,
Yeah.
I try to balance it out, but and I'm a planner too. Like, I have a planner and I write everything down. And I understand, like, in life, you have to pivot. Believe me,
Yeah.
I was in competitive dance. There's a lot of pivoting and things like that. But my point is that, like, I'll be ready and then something happens and I'm like, oh man, like, this, well, now I was planning on having a good day. Never mind, you know.
Yeah, let's just shut this down.
Well, no,
this day is over. Like, we're good. We're completely good. There's nothing else there.
And this song is like that. Where
This
it's
is
literally
that song.
like,
This is the anthem for people who think like this.
yes, there was I put my faith in you, and I love that you printed out the lyrics, by the way, because I was about to pull out my phone, and I'm a paper person.
Yes.
I put my faith in you. What a stupid thing to do. When it rains, it pours. I'm like, that's me. This is my voice.
I
Yes.
literally highlighted
Yeah.
that. So in terms of like things that I marked, I put my faith in you, and then I also marked I should have kicked your ass instead.
Yes,
so,
that's also me. Like, oh my gosh, because I always try to. Here's the thing. I am good at reading people, and sometimes, like, every once in a while, you can be wrong. You have like a first impression of somebody, and then sometimes those first impressions where you're like, ugh, this person.
Yeah.
Sometimes those people end up being like my best friend. And I'm like, remember when we used to hate each other? And now, like,
They're like, what?
If you ever leave me, like, this is not happening.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen all the time, but every once in a while. But that's like the same thing where I'm like, I knew it. I knew I was right. Like I can't. And I was right the whole time. And then people are like, oh, this person was terrible. I'm like, I know. I just, but
yeah. Usually I'm like a really negative Nelly when it comes to, and do you ever notice like all those words, like negative Nelly and all that, always have female words in them? It's
Yeah.
like positive Patty,
Oh,
negative Nelly.
1000%.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm a negative Neil about things.
there we go. Hey,
I'm never going to use that.
We're getting progressive.
I'm not.
Yes.
I'll go right back to what I said earlier. Anyway,
Forget it.
it's like I'm
Stop
just.
the podcast. Edit that out. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. It's
Thank you for
fine.
coming on.
Right.
No, but all kidding aside, it's like I am so like my first impression of everybody is like they're the worst person on the planet. Like just by default, it just makes my life easier.
Yeah.
And then if they show that they're better than that, then it's a win.
That's
But
there
like,
you go.
I'm like, okay,
you're just setting
good.
low standards real fast,
Absolutely
real
low
quick.
standard for people,
and
like,
then you'll get
that's it.
surprised. Yeah.
So I always give feedback on what I think and what I and I do research. Like I go down like a rabbit hole
Oh,
of the
wow.
group and
Okay,
stuff like
there
that.
we go. Yeah.
But anyway, this song sounds like it sounds like it could have came out yesterday, which is kind of weird. It's almost a 20-year-old song. We're at
Isn't
19.
that wild,
That
though?
is wild.
I know. I'm like, oh my God.
But it's like this could have been on a radio station yesterday, and I'd be like,
Yes.
"Oh, this just came out," and it's like, no, it didn't. Like it doesn't sound as dated as you think it would. And then it's just like a happy little upbeat song from like two like I guess they were like 19 or 20-ish when it came out. So it's like you're just out of that like Britney Spears phase. And
Yes.
and you're like everything is effed up,
Yeah.
and it's like you're not cursing.
Yeah.
I thought that tickled me the most. They're like, everything's effed up, and it's like people are already like cussing in mainstream songs in 2006, so it's not like
Yeah.
they could have went there, but they intentionally chose not to.
Yes,
and it's
which
like,
was like me. Like I would try not to. Like I always was like a little bit more, not demure, I would say, but like I still was in that phase where when I remember I first went to college, I was like, oh, I don't really know anybody, so I'd be like, and then by senior year, I was like, everything is
have this, have that,
Yeah, exactly.
Turning over tables.
1000%. Yeah,
I'd love
just
to
a
tell
real
you
housewife over
I'd
here.
love to tell you that I didn't start cussing like until I was like way older, but it was like 10.
Yeah,
And I was just like, I curse. I was like, it was like a switch. I'm like, I curse now.
Yeah, it
And that's
happens
how it
that
was.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like, I'm a
weird when it
person who
happens.
curses.
I remember I was on when I was in middle school, I was it's like when you first like have that moment where you're like, I'm angry, like what? But there was somebody said something. It was like some girl said to me on like the playground in middle school. and everybody was around me because they were like, how is Mollie going to respond? And I went, am I allowed? I won't cuss on this podcast.
No, you can if you want.
I was like, okay, so just imagine.
If you don't want to, you don't have to.
I went to like private school, and I just remember she said something, and people were around me. It was like something out of a movie, and she had something really mean. I can't even tell you, but I can't tell you what she said.
Yeah.
But I can remember how it made me feel, and I went, you bitch. Literally. When I said it though, I went,
right.
Oh wow. I must be really angry. And I remember like I told my mom, I was like, Mom.
You told your mom.
I told my mom, I was like,
That's awesome.
I totally called somebody a bitch today. And she goes, well, what did they say, honey? What made you like so upset? Like she didn't even get angry. Like she like wanted to know the drama. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to you for guidance right now because I'm a sixth grader, very confused.
I'm supposed to be in my room, grounded right now,
know,
and
she's
you're like,
well, what happened?
Yeah.
What? I'm like, oh my God. So I guess that was like cool of her to not like get upset with me.
Yeah.
Like she basically was like, we should probably watch our mouth, but also like, why did she upset you? Like she wanted to know, which I mean is good parenting, but it just made me laugh. She's like, well, what happened?
Yeah.
What? I'm like, what?
My mom just smacked my mouth into my 20s, into my 30s until she passed.
Yeah.
If I cussed around her, it was just out of nowhere. And in like the distance she would travel. And she had like really bad arthritis and like really like, just God bless her. She was in a lot of pain. But the distance she would travel to smack me was instantaneous.
She was like, I've got a lot of motivation for this. Yeah.
Like you're not going to curse around me.
Yeah.
I even say something to the kids now and like, like, hey, don't cuss around me. It's just one of those weird things that I got it from my mom. But she never let me cuss around. And they cuss. And it's like I try to ignore it and like try to be cool about it, but still like
my parents were not really hot about it
me.
either. Yeah. I think it's a generational thing too, like a respect thing. Yeah. Right. I get it. That makes
my dad
sense.
didn't care though.
Yeah.
Like he never well, he's in the military. I was in the military, so he just understood. But not my mom.
Moms, no. Yeah.
So the Veronicas are twins.
Yes.
They had a reality show. Did you watch the reality show?
No, I had no idea they had a reality show. I just knew I loved their music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still listening to the Veronicas?
So I have another song too. It's called Everything I'm Not. And it was like another song I listened to, like, I think that one came out in the 8th grade for me. Like, because I graduated from middle school and I don't know. Maybe it was I don't know. The point is it was like middle school into high school was when I was listening to them. But I remember just like being in my room and like being like, she's everything I'm not. And it's just like all those memes you see where it's like me in middle school or high school in my room with these lyrics when I like don't have a date or a person. And I was like, this is me. I feel this pain. But it's funny when you listen to the stuff now.
I'll never find anyone.
Yeah.
You pine away for this imaginary person who doesn't know you exist.
No, not at all.
And then like, and it's the end of the world, and they found somebody else. And it's like, well, what do they have that I don't have? Like, they just talked to them. Yeah. That was it. Yeah. Like the one thing you didn't do is you never approached them and like, got to know them.
I don't even know who I was upset about. I have no idea. Like, but I think about it now and I'm like, oh, it's so funny listening to lyrics at a different age. Yes. Because I'm going to be 35 and I'll hear Everything I'm Not, which is like, oh no, don't go changing. That's what you told me from the start. And then, literally it's like, oh, I've had ex-boyfriends that are like that say don't change. And then they start, and they're like, change. It's so weird. It's just like with this, I'm like, well, now I know what a day from hell really is. Like, I don't. Now I'm aware, I'm like, oh.
Like, I'm just mad I did poorly on a test. And now it's
I know. I'm like, remember those tests? I would just freak out. Yeah, I understand. So, awesome. So I still do listen to them, but it's a new meaning.
Yeah, well, that's good though. They did put an album out last year. They wrote a song that was used on The Sims. Actually, this song specifically was changed into Simlich or whatever they call it.
I will have to look into this. Yeah. Okay, yes.
And so there's like a lot of weird things about it, but they're Australian too, which we don't hold against them.
I've never been to Australia.
I have never been.
Yeah.
I hate flying. Like really
you
hate
do?
Flying. Yeah.
Do you just get like what?
No,
are you just scared? Or?
Yeah. We had I was 9/11 kind of took it out of me.
Oh, yeah.
And then we were flying back from Mexico a year ago, and it was like the worst flight I'd ever been on in my entire life.
So it's like the trauma.
Yeah, I'm just like, and I'm like trying to put it, we're going to Curacao. Like we're getting married, and we're going to Curacao for our honeymoon.
Oh, my gosh.
And there's like 2 flights, and I'm just like, God, like there's no direct flight, so we got to go to
Yeah.
like Miami and then Miami to Curacao. I'm not looking forward to that at all.
Maybe you can take like a special, like my mom was having like this ginger root when
Yeah.
she was on a plane. Maybe like
and Dramamine or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That or I'm just getting trashed.
Yeah, or that
at the
too.
hotel, at the
There you go.
airport bar. Something's gonna happen where I'm not gonna remember these flights. but
Exactly.
I don't know exactly what yet.
Yeah, you got to get on. Go to Curacao. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
yeah, we're going.
You're like, we're going. I just have to figure out how I'm,
Right,
how
how
I'm
to
going
how to
function.
get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a bunch of things here. It's almost kiddie and it's almost adult. It's just kind of funny. It like straddles that line so much.
That's
It's
me.
like-
Yes, I straddle that line all the time. I'm an adult, but I'm still a child at heart, and I am very honest about that. I will
Yeah.
never pretend that I don't. Like people are like, don't. I'm like, I hold grudges still. It's
and then
fine.
like at the end, she's like asking about, can I just change my life?
Can I just-
and like, can it be easier? Like
Jeff,
this poor
I
girl.
said both of those sentences today. Like, okay, I've been like, can it just be easier? Can I change my life? And Jimmy's like, babe. I'm like, God, yeah. So I understand. Yeah.
Can you tell them apart by singing?
What?
Do you know which one's singing at any given time?
I don't know.
Okay.
I wish I did. No, I just like, everything. I just feel the music. And I
Yeah.
mean, this goes for any musician. Like sometimes people are like, do you know, like, even in a boy band, who is singing what part? And I'm like, not really. I just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, some people get, obviously I got a music podcast, so it's
Yeah.
a little bit different. So it's
Yeah.
like people hold me to it like a much higher standard than they did before I started this.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a mistake I've made.
well, now I'll go back and listen to people. I'm like, okay.
Well, I like we were talking about Depeche Mode a couple weeks ago on the podcast, and then like somebody like gave me a comment, was like, "Well, you got this wrong," and I was like, "Oh man," like.
That
Yes, I
happens.
did, and I was like, "Thank you for listening." And
Yeah.
I'm like,
And it's like sometimes
hopefully
things
I
happen.
never
We're
find
only
you.
human,
Yeah.
Hey.
I watched the video. I don't know if you remember the video for this, or if
Not
you watched it recently.
really, no.
Usually I tell people I remind them to watch them.
I
and
should
then
have.
It's okay. Because then it was like a whole thing, and then people didn't, and then so anyway, the song sounds like it's new, but the video isn't. She's got a leather string tie.
Yes.
They have the hair too.
Yes.
The part here with
Uh-huh.
the I don't know, you call it like a bob, I guess.
Yeah.
But the long haired bob, which doesn't look right. Like it's a terrible look. You know, like that. I'm
like,
sorry, you're gonna
back in the day with a terrible look. Yeah.
But it's dated. Is that a
It's
better?
dated.
Is
There
that
you
better
go.
phrase? Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, oh yeah, I remember that haircut, and that kind of thing, and then like
Yeah.
the streaks and
That's what everybody wanted. Oh, yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, the expensive haircut with the streaks and the bob and everything
Uh-huh.
else. Yeah, the Avril Lavigne look, like they had it. And it was just kind of funny though. It was just like that was the thing that stuck out to me the most about the video. And then they take turns singing, and their life sucks.
I'll have to
and
rewatch it, but I
Yeah.
vaguely remember that because I had dark for a while. I had dark hair with pink hair extensions in
Yeah.
it. Oh my gosh, yeah. So that was like the thing. I wanted to be. It's just so funny for me to even think that I wanted to be like Avril Lavigne because I am nothing like Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
But I just was like, oh, that's so badass. Like, okay, I want to slay.
I had blonde highlights at one point in my life.
I feel like a lot of men did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have the tips?
Yeah.
Yes.
Frosted tips. I had that at one point.
I remember that.
Yeah,
yes.
it was terrible. So I've been there, and then I had I cut it like the George Clooney style at one point. The swept forward from ER. I had that for a while.
Oh yeah.
Terrible looks.
We
Like,
all tried something.
Yeah.
But your looks, Jeff.
yes,
Your dated
absolutely.
looks.
Yeah,
There you go.
You can call them terrible. It's okay. I'm not mad. Is there anything else you want to tell me about this song before we move on, or like did we cover everything?
I feel like I'm gonna listen to it more on the way home,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna watch the video as well.
and then you're
because
gonna call me and be like, "These
Yeah.
are the things that we should have talked about."
this is what we should have talked about, and
Yeah.
I might even change my hairstyle.
Please do. If you go to that Bob, send me a picture. Like that
I
would just be
will.
hilarious.
It'll be a follow up.
But it is kind of the one last thing though.
Yeah.
Everything about this is so funny though. But it's like I don't know where I parked my car. I don't know who my real friends are anymore. It's just like this is ground zero like of this poor girl. Well, her and her sister's life. It's just so
Don't
funny.
know where I parked my car. I don't know who my real friends are. But the thing is, like, Jeff. So I don't even know where I parked my car. Probably like 50. Like anytime I leave the Funny Bone, Jimmy will make fun of me because he's like, "You never know where you parked your car." Because I'm like, I can't remember if I parked it over here. And then sometimes I find it's like when you put something in a safe spot so you remember where it is.
And then forget the same
But then you forget your, like, so I'm going there and I'm like, oh my God, where's my phone and my pen?
You don't park in the same, like, area every single time you go?
I try to go towards the end when I go to the Funny Bone. However, like, sometimes if I go to, like, watch a show on a weekend or something, it's hard because, like, there's, like, tour buses or people visiting in. So I'm like, well, now I got to park. But it's just so funny. I'm like, where's my...
I park at this, like, if I go somewhere, you can, like, the same spot at, like, any location that I go to.
The only place I do that really is at my day job. I have, like, we all park in the same space. So my car is always in the same space there. But it is sometimes, like, I have been in that, just to make you laugh. There was one day I had to go, I had broken my arm. And so I was getting a checkup for it to make sure that it was still healing.
Yeah.
And where I had to go had a big parking garage, but it was one of those very confusing ones where, like, one side is a blue and then one side is a red and then there's like a weird in between. So
like
just
a purple there for no reason.
I'm like in the in between. I don't know. I'm like it's just crazy. But I had my arm in a sling. I needed to get to work. I'm like, oh my God. So
and you drove?
I drove. Yes. So I was right-handed, so I could still drive, and I was at the point where my arm. I wasn't on the heavy pain meds that I was on, so it was still healing, but it's like a long story. But the point is I was in this garage, and I just was like trying to click the beeper. I'm like, where is my car? Well, this very nice security guard took like full pity on me. And he's like, honey, like, what's wrong? And I just started crying. And I was like, I don't know where I parked my car. I broke my arm like a few months. I'm like, oh my God. And then literally, I kid you not, I get in this man's car. He drives around. We maybe went one loop. And he goes, is this, because I was driving my old 4Runner at the time. He goes, is this your car, honey? And I went, yes. Literally, I had to take it in. I was like, man, oh my God. But it was just so confusing. He goes, I get it. And he goes, for what it's worth, I do this for a lot of people. Yeah. And I'm like, well, thank you, sir, for being a good Samaritan for doing this. So
God bless you.
Yes.
But it was like literally like 20 feet away.
Yeah, I was like going down. I was going in the wrong direction. Yeah. He's like, had you had just gone the other way? And I'm like, oh my, it's just, you're like, oh my God.
But once you're stressed, then it's like, all bets are
and
off.
This was during the winter time, so it's like cold. I had to get to work. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? And then, so I'm having the day from hell. It was all going so well, and then I couldn't find my car in the parking lot.
So that's that. I really appreciate thank you. Because this was something like I like to listen to pop music. I really enjoy like girl bands and boy bands and all that stuff. But it's like if I miss it, I miss it. Like,
that's
and
okay.
there's like it's really easy for me to miss music. So the one nice thing about this podcast is that I do get to listen to a lot of different music that I wouldn't listen to ordinarily.
Absolutely.
But speaking of music,
let's do it.
I get to give people songs because what's the point of like bringing people on and just like letting them talk? It's like no, if we're gonna do this, like
this is my podcast, baby. I'm gonna talk to you.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna give you a song and see where we're at. So. Yes. What was the song that I gave you? So
it is Don't Look Back in Anger, which I thought was a very ironic choice considering it was like when it all falls apart and then also Don't Look Back in Anger.
Slip inside the eye of your mind. Don't you know you might find a better place to play?
And who is this by, just real quick?
Oasis.
So just in case, on the off chance that somebody is listening and doesn't know this song.
Yes. I told Jeff before we started recording that Oasis is like a flashback for me because it was also a band I listened to as well as the Veronicas during my high school days. So I was like, oh, Oasis. Oh my gosh. I was like, what was there was one, before we get into this one, there was a Champagne Skies.
Champagne Supernova.
Yes, that was the girl who I used to carpool with, played that all the time. Yeah. And I remember, I think I had that as my away message. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a Champagne Supernova or something. And then, oh God, so embarrassing. So embarrassing.
You got to do the nasal thing. I was like, Champagne
Supernova in the sky. Yeah, I'm like, oh God, someday you'll find me there. And you probably will. So if I find my car.
Yeah.
But if I find my car. I want to know what your thoughts are about this, because I feel like this song could be interpreted in so many ways. I want to know.
So there's always like some kind of connection I try to make. You know, like I just don't give people random songs.
Yeah.
Like that would just be insane. But unless it's like your favorite band and then I'm like, okay, well, here's my favorite band or something.
Yeah.
I try to make some kind of connection. The connection here obviously is that they're brothers, you know, Noel
I
and
did get that, yeah.
Noel and Liam Gallagher. There were several songs I could have sent you. I chose Don't Look Back in Anger because, again, it's like, you know, her song is like her boyfriend, you know, her boyfriends, they broke up.
Right.
And it's like, this is all part of things. And then this is just kind of like, there's a lot of ways to take this song, but, you know, they do get to the point where it's like, you know, Sally is some ex-girlfriend of sorts, and she, you know, and she says, don't look back in anger, you know, I heard you say, or whatever. Like, well, he's telling her, don't look back in anger.
Yeah.
We had a good time, but it's over. Which is the most Oasis line on the planet.
Yes.
There's a lot of Oasis lines here if you're like an Oasis fan. Like, this is probably the pinnacle of like all things Oasis.
Yeah,
you know,
no, for real though. Yeah.
So that's how I always took this song, and then that's why I chose that. I could have easily, like, Champagne Supernova would have been number 2. Number 3 or 4 would have been Wonderwall.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that
There's
too.
a lot of
so many memories. Yeah.
yeah, I have a lot of memories about. Actually, at Central, there was 2 separate occasions where I sang Wonderwall in front of the entire school with like the guitar class.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So I can do like a off-key Liam impression halfway decently, and if I get like enough liquor in me, I will just start singing Oasis songs like nobody's business.
There you go.
So
yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot here, but there's so much to unpack. But my thoughts on this song are just like, it's got the incredible piano to begin with, and then they just jump right in, and then they don't even get to the part that seems like it's a breakup song until like halfway through, because it's nonsense.
Yeah.
Like the first part of it is like, slip inside the eye of your mind, you don't know your a better pace to play, you said that you know all the things that you've seen slowly fade away. Like, what is that? You know, like,
yeah.
It means like nothing to me. And then I'm gonna start a revolution from my bed because because you said the brains I had went to my head. That's a John Lennon song, like.
Oh, it is?
Out of an interview.
Oh.
And he had heard it. Noel Gallagher is. So there's 2 brothers. Liam is the singer, but doesn't write any of the songs. Noel is the like basically the brains of Oasis, but he's like obsessed with the Beatles. So that's why.
Interesting.
All their
okay.
stuff sounds like, but he actually Noel sings this song, so this is like his song. But anyway, he'd heard that from John Lennon, and he was like, "Oh, I'm putting that into a song, and here it is." You know? And then Sally's imaginary, because people wanted to know if that was like a real person.
That's what I want to know. Is Sally real? That's what I've been. Okay, so she's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like when you're telling jokes on stage, you know, not every situation,
Yeah.
unless you're like. You're more of a, like, this is what's happening to me. You're more of an observational comic,
Yeah.
and this is what happens to me. Like, half and half of my stuff.
Because I can't fake it. I can't. I'm so bad. Anyway, continue.
Half of what I say is an absolute lie on stage. Half of what I say probably to most people is an absolute lie. But, you know, it's just...
This whole podcast. No.
Pretty much. Because everything I say sounds the same every time I say it. Everything sounds factual. It's a really weird thing I have. And I didn't even realize I had it until I started teaching.
Interesting.
And then people were like, you know, everything you say sounds like it's true, even when you're like lying to us. Because I would tell stories to the kids. And they're like, you know. And so I was like, how do I use this on stage? So I started making up like ridiculous stories.
Okay.
And people would be like, you know, how did you handle that when that happened to you? I'm like, what happened to me?
You're like, what? I made this up. Yeah.
Right. And then what's funny about that is then like people like, you know, I'm Native American, and I talk about it on stage, and then people are like, you're not Native American. And I'm like, well, you're just telling stories on stage. I'm like, no, that's true.
So
they
I
get
gotta
it
tell
backwards.
you, I did not know that. So
You've never heard me talk about being Native American on stage? I mean, it's okay if you don't like listen to word what I talk about.
No,
but,
I just haven't heard that. So this is new to me as well.
Yeah, no,
unless you're making it up. And
I'm
you're not. Telling me.
I am 37% Native American. We did a whole DNA test. My fiance got me one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Man, there's just so much brain fog these days. Literally, like
It's
after
all
the
good.
pandemic,
Yeah.
there's so many things where people are like, "Remember this?" And I'm like, "What? Oh my!"
Yeah.
But see, this is better because then I can remember things.
Yeah. No, it's all good. This will be for posterity now. So
I love it.
You know, But anyway.
Yes.
No, Sally is made up. And then it's just kind of like, I don't know. It seems like all over the place when you break down the lyrics. But at the same time, it all fits together.
It does.
You know, like, and then they're like, well, don't go put your hands in the life of a rock and roll band.
Yes, I was actually going to bring that up. That was one of my favorite lines. I loved that. Yeah.
And it's like, there.
And I did like Take Me to a Place Where You Go, where nobody knows if it's night or day.
Yeah,
so,
no, that's touching. You know, it's like, it's sweet. There's there's so much to this song. It's just kind of weird, you know, like stand beside the fireplace, take a look from off your face was apparently like when his mom would take Christmas photos. That's what she'd say to them.
What?
Yeah,
okay.
by the fire, and it's like it's in the middle of this song. Like what is going on with this song?
I was wondering about that because I was like, what is this setting? Because it sounds like I felt like I was in a lodge. I'm like, okay, yeah.
No, absolutely. And then you know, the ending's great. There's a guitar solo in the middle of it. The beginning of it is supposed to sound like Imagine.
Oh, okay.
So like by intentionality. And they're like, and then so people were like, look, you're ripping off the Beatles. He's like, well, what if somebody goes and listens to Imagine because they heard this song and they become like Beatles fans? He's like,
oh, so interesting.
Kind of an interesting defense.
Wow.
We couldn't do that on stage though, because if I started like doing like Jeselnik jokes, like Anthony Jeselnik jokes, which I wouldn't, then people would be like, you're ripping off Anthony Jeselnik. It's like, well, it's a homage. And they'd be like, no. You can't do that in comedy. But you can do that in music.
Mm-hmm.
You can
that
do
is true,
homages.
actually. You can definitely do that in music or like take certain rhythms or I gotcha.
Right. But you can't do that in comedy.
No.
Everything's got to be like a 100% original thought from somewhere. Or you get accused of stealing. I don't know, somebody I know from Chicago, I don't know if you know him or not, we'll talk after this, but like had a post and he's like, Andrew Schultz stole one of my jokes.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Andrew Schultz just put out a Netflix special and he was like posting, he's like, and I was like, how close is it to the original? And he's like, and then one of his other friends was like, identical.
Oh, no.
I know, right?
Okay,
I was like, that would just be my biggest fear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not that famous yet to have anybody steal any of my stuff.
But but I think it would be more likely that you're not that famous and get it stolen than being famous. Because they can't steal from somebody famous.
Who's famous, right.
No, but they could see you in St. Louis, you know, and be like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. You know, that's a great premise and all, you know.
Well, I think that's like I think that especially in the world of, and I say this as somebody who also like films clips and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I got a new phone and I was like, I definitely should start doing that more. But there's definitely that debate of like, how much do you put out there? Like, what should you do? And then also too, like maybe you change or you do rewrites or things like that. So it can always be very touchy, and it's like, or there's also things where maybe somebody had like a similar idea that you had.
Parallel thought is like what they call it.
Like I basically have seen the same joke, and I say this because I've had this too. When I first started doing comedy 7 years ago, there was something around like the lines of like, oh, people you should know, people that I'm trying to forget. Like everybody has said that, and it's like. People are like, oh, you know, that was. I'm like, I think just everybody feels that way. Yeah, it's just how you make it to your own story.
It's like an easy thought. You know, it's like you hear that phrase. These are people you should know. It's like, well, here's the people.
I forget. Yeah.
My favorite. It's not my favorite, but the one that always gets me is, and everyone has a version of it. It's like the edibles joke. It's like, you know, I bought edibles and the guy at the store said, you know, don't eat all these because you're going to get messed up. And then I took a bite and it didn't kick in. So I was like, I just ate more. So you know exactly. Yeah. And I've heard that from like 6 or 7 different comics.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
It's like we've all had that shared experience. It's just what happens. I think it's just how you can differentiate that shared experience is how it differentiated for your personal.
But it always they always end up in the hospital. The doctor always talks them down. Like the story, it doesn't change. There is no like split of like something ridiculous. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I killed the neighbors next door. You know, you didn't change. But that's
and then I committed murder. Yeah.
And then I came down. And I was like,
so this is why this is on Dateline NBC.
Right.
I'm in jail. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know.
But I'm just saying, like, there's no divergence. It's always the same arc. It's always the same, you know.
No, I've heard that before. I think I actually heard that last week, and I'm not trying to throw any shade to anybody. I don't even know who said it, but I do remember that. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's such a common, like, and I don't know. Do you listen to Oasis now? Just out of curiosity.
I will now. I say that because, like, you know what it is? It's like suddenly you get triggered, not triggered, but your mind remembers, like, oh, like, so I listened to I was like singing that on the way here.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that now. But now, sometimes what's funny is that those not childhood memories, but just like those adolescence memories that you have, where you have. What I like about, I'm not a huge music buff, but what I do like about music is sometimes you can listen to a song and it reminds you of like a certain time, whether it's like happy or sad and Oasis was like a really cool formative time for me.
Yeah.
Because I was starting high school and I was really excited, but also nervous, and just sometimes revisiting those memories through song, when maybe you don't necessarily have the words for it or description, but you have the feeling. Yeah. That's what music does.
No, I mean that's a really good way to summarize, and I think a lot of people who have come on here have had the same thing. They, I ask people to give me a song that matters, or means something to them. I think that's what matters. In terms of Oasis, for me, like I like their first album, and I like stuff afterwards. I'm more fascinated by Oasis than their music,
Interesting.
Because they famously hate each other. They're going on a giant cash grab tour this year.
Yes.
Like they finally, for years they were like, it'd take 20 million, 30 million. Like they kept opening the number, and it's like somebody found it.
Yeah.
There was a number and they hit it. And then you can like bet on whether or not they like finish the tour, if they break up on stage, all these funny things. And it's just that the kind of thing is fascinating to me. My favorite Oasis story, like, so you remember the MTV Unplugged, right?
Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's like, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Oasis Unplugged?
I don't. Like,
Okay.
I remember it being like, when you remember the advertisements and stuff, but I remember it happening.
Yes.
I just don't remember what happened in it.
Well, I will tell you, because it's, you almost got, they didn't do Don't Look Back, or they did, it's not on there or whatever. You almost got the live version, the MTV Unplugged version of this song, but I couldn't find it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they did, and I'm sure somebody will be like, they didn't do it, or they did do it, and you're a moron. Whatever, that's fine.
Anyway, we'll look at it, yeah.
2 hours before the show, Liam said he wasn't doing it. So they had been practicing, they've been rehearsing, everything else. And Liam, again, is the lead singer of the band, front man of the group, was like, I'm not doing this. My throat hurts.
Aww.
And they're like, okay. So Noel went and did all the singing. Halfway through, Liam shows up in the balcony, smoking and drinking the entire time and mocking them while they're down there. It's the greatest thing ever. He's just like, they're just kind of jerks to each other, like that's just kind of like their thing. Like they say mean things to each other, like they're just, but they're like this.
Interesting.
Forever.
Okay.
Because it's like, they went on solo. They have bands, each one of them, like, and different members of Oasis. Like,
oh wow.
Split and join them.
Okay.
So it's like Noel's flying something, and then BDI is Liam's, and then like basically half the band went one way, half the other band went the other way, and then they do their thing, and it's like they just complain all the time about each other. And then this MTV Unplugged is the greatest moment to me in terms of Unplugged. I mean, besides Nirvana's Unplugged, which you may or may not have ever seen. It probably came out after you were born, or was recorded before you were born. I don't know. I'm old at this point.
I was born in 1990, so depending on when it came out.
91, 92, somewhere there. Yeah.
So when I was 2 years old, I was watching MTV Unplugged with Nirvana.
Who wasn't? And I was 18 or 19, depending on. So just to give you an idea. And, that's just a great performance. And then, so it's like, people hold that up. It's like, this is the best one. But this is like the craziest one, because it just, just went to hell in a handbasket, because like their lead singer is like up in the balcony, like making fun of them and like throwing ice at them and stuff. And it's like, you could be down here. He's like, no, my throat. And it's like, okay.
Ways that people show love. If somebody, that's where I'd be like, I'm having the day from hell. Like, that's it. But brothers are different. It's a different animal.
Well, and then you have, like I said, you have the Veronicas, who like keep cranking out music. They did take a break for a little bit from seeing, but they, they're not fighting with each other.
No,
or nothing like that.
Yeah.
It's like, we're a band, and then these two are like, $30 million to get on stage again, and they got it. And they weren't going to do it before then. And I don't know if it was just like, okay, they're like laughing to each other in the group chat, like, let's see if we can get it to 40 million, that kind of thing. Or they genuinely hate each other. But like, either way, they pulled it off.
I wish somebody would pay me $30 million to go. I'd be like, done. Let's do it.
All of us would go on stage for nothing. That's what. that's
the saddest part, right? Yeah.
And that's the funny. It's like, why don't comics get paid? It's like we would do this for free, like all the time, and we do a lot of this for free, you know, or we take losses, you know. Like I've had several shows here that like I've made $10 or lost like 50.
Yeah. But I feel like the win for those, like, at least from my perspective, is that you do it for the community, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, all right, we did something for the community. We brought people in, like, especially too, when you bring a local business, it's just a good partnership to have.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I appreciate like Margarita's as an example, letting me record here now.
Yeah.
Like they let me keep the equipment here, which is nice.
Yes.
And that's a lot of equipment. So
Yeah.
a lot of stands and stuff.
I keep an equipment over at the Golden Hoosier too. So yeah.
So it's nice for them to do stuff like that. It's nice to, you know, that somebody does that, but at the same time, it's like it's frustrating when it doesn't go well. You know?
Oh yeah, no, I think that's the risk to people. Again, when we were talking about earlier, is that people just don't realize what goes into making a local comedy show, because you can just come into a bar or wherever you decide to do it, or a basement, or what. It's just like even in New York, I was seeing there's like people who do shows in barbershops and things, and those are just to get people to come to those is insane. Yeah. And you have to compete with like what I am really trying to do is like trying to compete with like other things that people do during the weekend, you know? So really it should be commended. That $10 was, I mean, it's sad when you're like, oh man, it's like $10, but like you really earned that $10.
Right. No, anything that you earn, like it's well earned, you know? So, any other thoughts, closing thoughts on Oasis or the Veronicas?
I love that we talked about brother and sister duos and their differences and their similarities.
A lot of differences.
Now I'm going to go, like I said, I feel like I'm going to go down memory lane and, you know.
Yeah, what I insist you don't do, though, is don't listen to a Beatles song after listening to Oasis. Because I went and listened to I'm the Walrus right after listening to Don't Look Back in Anger.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, because I never really, you know, people are like, they rip off the Beatles. But I always kept them like separate, like on playlists or whatever. Like I never really like had them side by side. And I listened to Don't Look Back in Anger, which is a good song. And then I listened to I'm the Walrus and I'm like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoops. You know, it's like, you sound like John Lennon. You guys play like John, you know, you play like the Beatles. I was like, oh, now I get why people were mad at you guys, you know, because people were pretty mad when they came out. Like, you wouldn't know that.
Interesting.
But, like,
yeah, I definitely
there was a lot
know.
of, like, you guys are just ripping off the Beatles hatred.
So much drama.
There was a lot of drama around Oasis. They kind of brought it on themselves, you know. They were like, we're tough guys from Manchester. And, it's like,
and what's so funny is that they called themselves Oasis, which is like supposed to be like an island of like relaxation or like a state of mind.
Yes.
And literally everybody's like, drama. I'm like, oh my God.
Ironically named.
Yeah. Definitely not an Oasis.
And then, there was a whole thing about the Veronicas and their name. Like, they actually, like, Archie sued them. And they had to, like, settle. And so, like, eventually they were, like, buddy-buddy about it. But, like, when they came out with the name initially, it was like, no. Like, the Archie comics was like, no, you're infringing on our Betty and Veronica kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So much drama. Oh, my gosh.
What you name things, like, matters, you know?
Yeah.
Like, everything matters, you know, like, when it comes to naming and stuff, people take that serious, you know? So.
They do.
They do, and so it was interesting. Like, you just remind me of that. Like, the Veronicas, they went through that too, just as much, not as much as Oasis, but you know, there's bands that have had to change their name, or like, there's a Fontaines DC, which is a band I listen to out of Ireland, and there was a Fontaines in the United States, so they added DC at the end of their name, and they're infinitely bigger than whatever band that they took their name from.
The only one I can think of, and this has to do with music, but Mission Taco here is now going to be Session Taco.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? I was one of those people who thought that the Mission Tacos that you bought in the store was the same Mission Tacos. I thought that. I had no idea. I didn't know
interesting.
I didn't know that there was a difference until they sued, and they're like, we're Session Taco now. And I'm like,
well,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought they were one and the same. I had no idea.
Yeah. Oh, you know, I didn't even know the difference. I was just like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
But I didn't even put two and two together until that happened.
Until they were renamed.
And then I was like, oh.
They should lower the price of their tacos, Mission Taco or Session Taco now.
Or Session Taco now. Yeah,
then-
I haven't been there in a minute. But
Because it's expensive.
yeah, we have one in St. Charles where we live, and it is nice. Like, it's got a really beautiful patio and the
Yeah,
streets and
I'm
stuff.
sure.
But Jimmy and I can't tell you the last time we've been. Like, we tried it out when we
Yeah.
first moved. We're like, oh, fun. But also, like, and I don't mean to, like, it's just, it's just a little pricey. And right now we're putting our money towards other places.
Yeah,
so,
no, absolutely. That's
Other
a lot.
things.
That's a lot of eating out right now.
Yeah, exactly.
For everybody. Times are different. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just go get real Mexican. Like,
Yeah, I like to like, and I don't mean to be like, because I feel like women a lot, and I say this like lovingly, like people are like, oh, I just love to cook and all this stuff, but I actually genuinely do like to make like at home
Yeah.
tacos. Like right now we're working on our kitchen, but when we were first dating, I used to do like a whole taco bar. So I'd be like, here's some like ground beef, or
Yeah.
here's some chicken, here's some vegetables. So we actually like had more of an experience, and it was a lot less money for me to just
right.
do it myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not have to like
Yeah,
go
no, we do
elsewhere.
the same thing whenever we make fajitas and stuff.
Yeah,
and
yes,
Hard up chicken and
right.
yeah, do the whole thing. And
You get it.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
But you know where I love getting Mexican is margaritas. So,
yes, absolutely. Shout out to Margaritas here
Yes.
in Belleville, in the big bar that you guys can't see. You just see the
Yeah.
little corner. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. We have stickers now. I do want to pimp the stickers real quick before you go. So you're gonna go home with a sticker. If you want a sticker, hit me up. You probably know me in person, so please reach out.
Yeah.
And so this is a scene in the movie where we let people promote their stuff. Like, so look into this camera here. However you want people to find you, go ahead and
Perfect.
give your socials, and then we'll go from there.
Right, exactly. Hi, I'm Mollie Amburgey, and you can find me at mollyjamburgey.com. You can also find me at Mollie Amburgey, the Casually Mollie podcast on Instagram, Casually Mollie on TikTok. I know, we can throw out all the things.
Yeah.
The other thing too, so I was saying in here that I produce shows. So I do an open mic at the Golden Hoosier in South City, St. Louis. That is the second Sunday of every month.
Yes.
I always say that is my community service. Like some people, they do soup kitchens. Some people go.
You take in wayward comics
I
and give
take
them a
in
home.
comics who are people that want stage time, and it's a $5 cover charge for audience members, but it's totally worth it. And it's actually like, I gotta say, I've been doing it for over a year now. One of my favorite things. And then I do a monthly showcase there as well. The one that we're doing is on Saturday, by the time this comes out. But just know, we're almost sold out and we're killing it.
Awesome.
The other thing is that on April 8th at the St. Charles Funny Bone, I am doing a comedy showcase. They've been very great about having me back to do it, and I bring in comedians that are from or based in the St. Charles area, minus Emily Heron, who preaches over in O'Fallon and just graciously is on the show. But we're going to do a fun little bit with that. But yeah, just keep checking it out. Like I said, I just enjoy being able to create shows because I was a theater major. I used to write plays, and I still do.
Awesome.
It's just I am not able to do just with like everything with our house and everything. I can't always like produce a play the same I want to, but a comedy show I can still like
Crank
do
up.
crank it up. Yeah. So just if anybody, just ask me questions or that's it.
Awesome.
That's me.
We are at Gimme A Song. If you've made it this far, then you know. I'm at Jeffrey Phipps, JEFFERY_Phipps, PHIPPS on Instagram and Facebook, and those are the only two places that I actually post or do anything on. So that'd be the easiest way to find me. We say this at the end of every show. Tell your friends, tell your pets. Thank you so much, and have a great day. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I was planning on having a good day. Never mind.
Oh, here's the people.
I forget.
I'll never find anyone. Oh, I killed the neighbors next door.
Oh.